So today I would like to welcome Marianne, who's a fashion journalist and a plus-size writer. Marianne was an in-house journalist for Farfetch, for freelancing at Stylist, Marie Claire, Hello Fashion, and many other big names. So welcome, Marianne, to Secret Influence TV.
Hello, hi everybody. Hope you're all good.
Excellent. And are you well today?
What? Sorry, I can't hear you properly.
Are you well today?
Oh yeah, I'm all good, thank you.
Good. So just to get to know you, I'm going to ask you a few quick fire questions, and then we'll start our interview. So just want to start because you worked in fashion. Is there a favorite magazine that you read regularly?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a huge fan of Stylist magazine, as they write a lot about feminist issues. It all focuses about women and all kinds of women, and everybody is represented in there. And I think the writers do an amazing job every day. And I'm also a huge fan of Vanity Fair. I'm a big fan of fashion magazine that connects politics and reality issues with fashion, not just all editorials and beauty shoots and stuff.
Okay, and then do you read them in printed format, or do you read them online? How do you read them?
I am a very old school human being. I have a lot of digital subscriptions to magazine, but I love getting a paper magazine in my inbox every month and just read it, scrolling the pages. It's a very cool sensation just having the paper thing in my hands.
You're just like me. I'm old school as well. I've got a big book collection, and I'm always reading and always collecting books, and I like the feel of an actual book or magazine. So a couple of quick fire questions: eating out or eating in? Any preference?
Oh, I think I'm a huge fan of eating takeaway food by home.
Okay.
So you can choose a different cuisine every night and just staying on your couch and watch Netflix, but still eating good food from outside.
Sure. No, especially in moments, I think, with a recent lockdown, I think so eating in has become out. Winter or summer? Any preference?
Definitely winter.
Winter.
I'm a huge fan of coats, big, huge, chunky sweater, heaters on, hate summer, can't stay under the sun for the life of me. So, nope.
The right time tea or coffee?
Love English weather. Love English weather.
Oh. Yeah, it's definitely starting to get cold now, so I'm sure you're happy there.
Yes.
Next question: tea or coffee? Any preference?
I'm Italian. Coffee.
Of course. Me too. I can't start the day without coffee. And
Italian coffee.
Oh, it's the best. It's one of my favorite things about traveling, but particularly Italy, is having a nice, good quality coffee.
Yeah. Definitely.
And last question: staycation or vacation? Do you prefer to travel abroad and try new countries, or stay and visit?
Definitely vacation. Before the apocalypse started, I traveled in 2019 with my boyfriend. We traveled 16 countries. So wow. Yeah, definitely vacation. Yeah.
Wow. How long were you traveling for then?
It was just we usually have a tradition of a couple of big trips during a year, outside Europe. There is going to be America or Dubai or any other country, and then we are going to do a tour of the countries that he didn't see in Europe. He's Indian, so he didn't travel much before coming to the UK. So we're going to the small unexpected places. I fell in love with Bratislava. It was a very random trip, so it's just gems of Europe that you will never think of going normally.
Sure.
But, yeah.
So now to get on to our interview. So when I was chatting to you before, you said that you started off doing something very different to what you're doing now. That you were born in Italy and you worked in dental hygiene, and then you moved to London to work as a fashion journalist. So quite a change. What led to that? What led to you changing countries, but also changing career?
So I was born in a family of doctors. My dad is a surgeon, my brother is a dentist, and I always had the passion for drawing and writing and fashion, and write pieces for the school journal and stuff. But life happens, and you have to follow kind of in your family thing. In Italy, is very common to do that. So I went to uni because I kind of had to follow the family path. So I actually graduated with very high score, to be honest. Like I was like in the maximum level of score, but I tried and worked on that. And I actually went to medical school and worked for a year as a dental hygienist. But I quickly realized it was not what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to write, I wanted to reach like people with my, writing, and try to spread as much the message that I want to spread the most. And so I just like, took my savings, came to London. It's always been a dream of mine living in London since I was a kid. And I just came in, enrolled in a postgraduate course and start interning. And then like the rest is history. So I think like it's very important that in a job that involves other people, like medical jobs, you need to have the respect for the patient to understand when you're not in it. And you can't, play with people's life just like for the sake of it. So I just decided to follow my dream. And I think like everybody should do that at some point.
No, I very much admire that. I think a lot of us think about doing that and consider that. It's very easy to get stuck in a rut in life, and it's very easy to put things off and procrastinate. To actually go for it and do what you're passionate about and change not only way you live, but also your career. Very, very impressed. So what would you talk about journalism now? What role do you think journalism has in creating awareness and informing people about news or a subject versus influencing them and changing behaviour? Do you think? What's about?
Sadly enough, sometimes press has a little bit too big of a role in influencing people. And like I have a deep hatred for like gossip journalism. Sure. I think like that's not journalism. Journalism is about telling story where people can be represented, they can see them in. And I think like we as a journalist have the responsibility of weighing our words and like considering and thinking about what we put out in the world, because so many people are going to read it. And, especially, in my case, fashion magazines and like beauty magazines have a lot of young audiences. So it's very important that journalists take on the responsibility of putting out the word things that they believe in, and not just for making money on advertising brands. That's not the point of journalism. That's advertising, and that's another thing.
Okay, no, that's a very good point you made there. And do you think the fashion industry is overall seen as a positive influence or negative influence on people?
Again, I think it really depends on what we are talking about. I think that, thank God, at some point, like in the last couple of years, the fashion industry took like a slight change for the better. It really comes to the point where it needs to stop the thing that fashion is all about who has the best body. Like that's not about that. Fashion is art, and to the point where everybody should be able to wear that kind of art. So there shouldn't be any diversion of any kind of like, barrier between different bodies and different people, different color, different race, different sexuality. Like that shouldn't be a thing that should know limits, because art doesn't know limit. So it's like, when fashion goes too much into what is acceptable to be beautiful, that's when the bad influence start to come up. When it's embracing everybody, that's when fashion becomes art and everybody can enjoy it. So I think it really depends on how it's portrayed and what we are talking about, and who is writing about it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously journalists are a key part in that, in the influencing behaviour and trends. If there's one thing you could change in the fashion industry in that way, what would it be? If you could perhaps, there's one thing which you thought, oh, I don't want to change that, you could wave a wand. What is there something you would like to see change?
I think like I would try to completely eliminate tokenism.
Okay.
We see loads of photo shoots, loads of ad campaign where, a random plus size person has been thrown in, or like a random Black influencer has been thrown in. And then if you work behind the scenes, you will get to know that if that person has been lucky enough to be paid, there is like a huge gap in paying of like an able-bodied, white, skinny woman comparing to a fat Black woman. Like the amount of money that the Black fat woman is going to get most likely is going to be a fraction of the money that that white, able-bodied, skinny woman is going to get. So that Black woman is going to be thrown in, or the plus size woman has been thrown in just to tick a box. And the fashion industry needs to stop ticking boxes, because we as minorities, and I am still privileged because I am a white woman, we are not boxes to tick. We're actually chunkies of market. If you want to talk about money, we are chunks of markets that should not be ignored, because let me tell you, plus size women love dresses. So it's like, if designers will start to be smart enough to understand that, like, we want to spend money on clothes, but there are just no clothes around. So maybe something will change. And when designers are going to allow magazines to advertise their plus size lines, at some point we will see that all comes together organically, and it's not just a tokenism kind of thing.
No, I think it's a very good point about tokenism. I think that's often the way that issues are addressed. They think by using a tick box approach and having tokenism that they've done their bit and everything's fine. But I think for real genuine change to take place, it has to be more authentic and recognizing the value, like say, if nothing else, the financial value of a market, that to have that equal opportunity.
And, let me tell you this: like, fashion world is a very small world. And it happened to me that I got an offer for a job as a plus size writer. And I came to know that one of my colleagues that was like a size 6 was asked to do the same job, and she was offered way more money, and she was less experienced than me. So it's something that happens to any level and in any circumstance. And it's all about image. And it's crazy that like a journalist is, carroted with that particular kind of thing. Like, I'm a writer, it doesn't matter how much I weigh. So it's like it's engraved in the culture, sadly enough.
And I think you're right. There's a continual thing addressing prejudice, and prejudice is so many things. And I think that it just does show that we can, whether it's a subconscious or an unconscious prejudice, but we do. Looks is one thing that we as conscious and subconsciously do make prejudice or decisions based on. So yeah, no, I do agree. Have you noticed having lived in Italy, but obviously working in London, have you noticed any difference between Italian media, Italian papers and English? So are they more liberal, conservative, or the type of content? Is there any?
Absolutely. I love the British fashion world way more than I love the Italian one. I was lucky enough to work in different fashion weeks, and I can notice straight away insane amount of differences. Started with the minimum size required for models. In Italy, they are like way smaller than in the UK, for example. And even on the representation wise, Italy is way far behind. There is not enough representation whatsoever. And if in the UK, I can name few editors that are like plus size, in big magazines, I can't do it in Italy. I think I don't know any plus size editor in Italy that is in big magazines. So the representation in Italy is extremely poor. And I'm not just talking about plus size. I'm talking about colors. I'm talking about like race. I'm talking about sexuality. There is not enough transgender people in the staff of magazines. There is not enough Black representation in Italian magazines. There are so many native Black people in Italy that don't have the chance to showcase their talent in any kind of way in the fashion. It's absolutely insane, like how basically nobody, Black, Italian, Afro-Italian people, like there is no Afro-Italian representation whatsoever in the fashion world. And it's so sad because there are so many talented people out there that don't have any kind of outlet for showcasing their talent.
I think the point around as well is also, of course, the fashion industry in Italy, or Italian fashion industry is huge. They're one of the most. Italy plays such a key part in influencing the world of fashion. So, if you can see with Italy, and obviously Italy does lead the world of fashion in ways. But I think there's certainly, I think there's a link between the issues and behaviour of a country and the culture. And I think a lot of cultures.
Definitely.
It's somewhat changing slowly, but definitely there's a lot more to be done, I think, certainly in the UK as well.
Oh, absolutely. The amount of work that needs to be done is insane.
Looking ahead, what are your sort of your plans? What would you like to be doing in an ideal world in 5 years' time?
I think I would love to have my magazine. it's something I'm working towards too. It's a very slow process, and it's a very complicated process, and it's a very expensive process. But I would love for me to have my magazine when I can decide to showcase independent designers, independent artists, having a pool of writers, everybody paid, because let me tell you, the unpaid work for journalists is an issue. Sadly, the UK is one of the countries where unpaid work is legal. And sadly enough, brands and publications most of the times get all the advantages without giving out much to the people they hire unpaid. And for the freelancing is even worse, because you always have the client selling you, oh, but that's a quick job, you can do it for free. And I'm like, no, I can't. So, it's like, I hope to have a magazine where I will be able to, like live from it and actually hire people, paying people that are not mainstream designers, and they're not mainstream artists and not mainstream brands, and have the platform for them to showcase and reach the biggest amount of people possible.
And it sounds very exciting. And if you were to write this magazine, would it be I think you mentioned a couple of magazines you read regularly earlier, but Stylist, and I think, was it
Vanity Fair?
Vanity Fair, sorry. So would it be along those lines? If you created your own magazine, would it be a style?
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be, I don't want it to be only editorial and photo shoots. I definitely don't want to do that. There are so many journalists that can showcase the talent on so many interesting issues that that people think they're so disconnected from fashion, but like it's not. Fashion is made of people, and people have background stories, and they come from places, and fashion is culture. So showcasing other people's culture, like it's something that I'm very, very interested about, and making people understand. And when you say to somebody, you have the thin privilege, I'm not offending anybody, I'm just stating a fact. Like, you benefit from something that people like me can't benefit from, so it's only fair that you take a share of your privilege and just put it to the service that the other minorities community don't have the privilege of doing it. So I just hope that like at some point we will have an inclusive publication where everybody can showcase the talent, not mattering like what they come from, what color they are, or something like that.
I strongly believe that it's by having these conversations, and for people like yourself, sharing the message, and obviously starting to change things bit by bit, but that's how things improve. So yeah, good luck with that. I'll watch your space. Did you have a name in mind for your magazine? Did you have any? What was it?
I was actually, yeah, I did. And I'm not going to say it because obviously copywriting situation.
Yeah, of course.
But I want to try and play with a word that has always been seen as a bad word.
Okay.
But that actually can mean different things. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, well, watch your space. And you mentioned storytelling earlier. I mean, so I'm a copywriter, and I used to tell stories a lot, whether it's for getting messages across, promoting a brand. Stories is how we connect. Would you say, I mean, is that something you think you're good at? Is that something that's it's a big part of journalism, I guess, isn't it? It's the same as telling stories. And is that something you enjoy doing, telling stories and getting to know people's stories?
Absolutely. Like I absolutely enjoy everything about people's background stories and culture, because you're not gonna have two people on the planet that have the same story, and there is always a story that everybody has that we don't know about. So quick judging somebody is the worst thing that you can do, because you don't know what that person is living privately. And having the possibility of telling people stories is something that enriches you every day. And there is a difference between writing a copy for a coat and understanding where the coat comes from. And there is also I am probably the least judgmental people on the planet, but I can't tolerate extremism in any case. And there is a lot of people telling me, oh, you are an advocate for a more sustainable world and a more sustainable way of doing journalism, but you wear fast fashion. And I'm like, and you don't thrift enough. And there is a problem with that. Not everybody has the money to spend £200 on a sustainable brand. And that's obviously not shame to the brand, because obviously there is a lot of, you know, costs and things to pay and stuff. But as soon as the sustainability in fashion will reach a point that is going to be affordable for most of people, let me tell you, fast fashion is going down. And the same thing happens for thrifting. Thrifting for plus size is a very different game than thrifting for straight size people. If you are a size 10, and if you go into a thrift store, I would ask you to be mindful of not buying a size 22 to have an oversized look, because there is somebody that will probably find 2 pieces of size 22 in that store, and you are taken away from it. Like, you occupying a space that is, you know, already small, and it's like probably the only thing that the other person can reach. So like, we all have to be mindful of one another, and we all have to be mindful of our privilege, whatever it is, because every category, everybody holds some privilege. So if we are more mindful of everybody else around us, the situation will change for the better, for sure.
That's a really interesting way of looking at it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's saying communication is knowing not what you say, is why you say it, and I think it's having a good intention and why, you know, what's your motivation, and why, you know, why you're sharing a story and why you're doing it, not necessarily just what you're saying. So I've got one more question which I'm going to ask, but first I just want to say that, yeah, so to my viewers, I'm a professional copywriter and the author of the book Secret Influence, Communication's Traded Power, and I'm fascinated by the whole thing of influence and the psychology of it. And I genuinely believe that influencing is a really important skill in life, because if you want to improve your career, you've got to influence your boss to get promotion, or HR. If you want to get a job, you've got to influence the interviewers. If you want to get, you've got business, you've got to influence your customers to buy your product, or you won't make money. So influencing is so important. And if you can't influence others, then often life will end up just influencing you. So, and journalism, amongst many other areas of work, you know, it does play a role in influencing people positively or negatively. So I'd just like to say, Marianne, I really enjoyed our chat. And before we finish, I always ask people I chat to, is there any tips or key messages that you would like to share with anyone? Perhaps on the issue of self-acceptance, body issues, you know, is there anything you would like to share? Any words of?
Absolutely. I have been a victim of eating disorders for half of my life.
Okay.
And I think that sometimes we go a little bit over the top with, we should accept our bodies, whatever it is. Like, that's not as easy. And what I want to put out there is, we need to love our body at the stage we are in. We need to love our body during our journey. We can decide to change it, or we can decide to live with it. But in the state of, at the state of the art, so where we are now, we need to learn to accept our journey, and we need to embrace our body. Going through all the changes, we can decide everything we want with our body. That's our body. That's our choice to make, and nobody can judge or not. We don't have to justify anything with anybody. But we need to stop put ourselves down, and we need to stop thinking that only if we reach a certain goal, we are worthy of being represented. Everybody is worthy to be represented, and everybody should have somebody else to look up to that looks like them. So I just want to put out there, like, whatever journey you're going through, just love your body now. So that's my key message, basically.
No, that's a very powerful message and very motivating. I think what I like about that, Marianne, is that, you know, you're obviously talking with passion, and also, you know, you're talking with experience, and that's the most, I think, encouraging thing when I listen to people, when they're genuinely talking from experience. So that's the end of our Secret Influence TV interview. If anyone wants to hear more interviews, they're going to be one every week with other people who influence or persuade of a powerful message to share. And I think the chat today did highlight some really important issues. And we are at the moment, you know, particularly lockdown last year, you know, there is a lot of challenges to our mental health as well as physical health. And I think certainly in a moment of social media, there's a culture of comparing ourselves online, and you know, we look at other people, see what they're doing, make comparisons. I think that pressure on our how we feel about ourselves is bigger than ever before. So you raised some really important issues, Marianne, and I do appreciate that. And just to say thanks for coming. And
thank you so much for having me.
And yeah, I know obviously we met from LinkedIn, so I know people want to get hold of you. They can find your LinkedIn, and I can perhaps share your link to the videos if anyone wants to chat to Marianne or to connect. Yeah, she's on LinkedIn. So
thank you.
Again, and
have a lovely day, everybody.
Thank you.